Good evening, everyone, and welcome back in for the fourth edition of the Coaches Takeout Talk. My name is Isaac Camelli, and I'm delighted to be back in your homes to serve as tonight's MC for our Q&A session. We'll be joined tonight by head coach Sebastian Vecchio of the CSUB women's soccer team. Before we get too far, I want to say a huge thank you to Tony's Pizza for helping us out with tonight's event. We hope that you all had a chance to go out and order some pizzas or sandwiches, or maybe even some tasty wings from Tony's Pizza at one of their 3 locations here in Bakersfield. Today, Tony's is one of our favorite local restaurants, and they've agreed to donate 10% of their sales from tonight's event to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. Head on over to Tony'sPizzaCompany.com to see their menu and order online. Once again, thank you so much to Tony's Pizza for helping us provide scholarships for our amazing student athletes. We'd be remiss if we didn't also thank CSU Bakersfield's president, Dr. Lynette Zalesny, for making herself available for each of our Coaches Takeout Talks. July 1st will not only mark CSUB Athletics' first day as members of the Big West Conference, but is also the second anniversary of Dr. Zalesny's appointment as our president. Over the past 2 years, she has been a great advocate for our department and the entire university. Dr. Zalesny, thank you once again for joining us.
Isaac, thank you so much. It's an absolute highlight of my day to be with you. And Coach, thank you so much for all of the women that you inspire. I have to share with you that one of my mentees this last year was from women's soccer, Melanie Sia. And I'm so very proud of her. And she is off to do great things in the world of business. I'm very thankful also of the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund, because Sean and I feel this is one of the most important things to invest in for our scholar athletes. Isaac, I want to thank you for all that you've done to bring this to us. And I want to thank our amazing athletic director. What a joy it is. As we approach July, we enter into the Big West. And I am sharing with you that I am so excited and ready to be a real key voice for all of athletics at CSUB in our new conference. Thank you for having me.
We definitely join you in that excitement for the Big West and seeing what the next year and many more to come has in store for CSUB Athletics. And once again, thank you for being here. So tonight we are very excited to be able to bring this Coaches Takeout Talk to the comfort of your homes. We are privileged to hear from one of the newer members of the CSUB coaching staff, Sebastian Vecchio, head coach of our women's soccer team. But before we do that, allow me to go over a couple of things. First is how participants interact during the Q&A session of our evening. And second is a recommendation on how to have the best viewing experience. After we have talked with Coach Vecchio for a little while, we will then move into a Q&A session where our viewers will be able to ask questions. When you think of one, send it to me in the Zoom chat. My name is Isaac Camelli here on the Zoom system, and I'll be able to find it for Coach. To find this Zoom on your device, locate and click on the chat icon. Make sure the to section says my name, type in your question, and hit send. When we get to that portion of our evening, I'll go through the viewer questions one by one with Coach. The last thing is, if you have your Zoom meeting in gallery view, you might want to switch over to speaker view. We recommend this as it will give you the best viewing experience possible, but it's up to you whether or not you want to peek around the gallery and see what your neighbor's doing. You might even see next week's coach hanging out, so he's probably here trying to pick up on some tips from Coach Vecchio on what to say. Alrighty then, now that we've gotten that out of our way, it's time we hear from the man of the hour, CSUB's head coach of the women's soccer team, Sebastian Vecchio. In 2 seasons as the head coach of the Roadrunner women's soccer team, Coach Vecchio has led the CSUB program to more than 15 wins, 4 all-conference selections, and 2 WAC tournament appearances. Sebastian notably raised expectations of his coaching staff and team from year 1 to year 2. The Runners responded as the team improved from 6 wins to 9, from 21 goals scored to 27, and from 14 assists to 24. Sebastian, welcome into this week's Coaches Takeout Talk.
Thanks, Isaac. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and looking forward to chatting with everybody today.
All right, Coach, let's jump right into it. On a topic of COVID-19, the situation that our world is in right now has placed a pause on the push towards expanding summer school funding to your athletes in particular, and as well as all of them. So how has the interaction with your players and coaching staff during this part of the off season, how has it differed from if your program would be in its normal groove and being able to provide summer school to the athletes?
Yeah, it's a different situation that we were trying to adjust. We were able to get, I think, 1 or 2 players in summer school, which is not as many as we usually get in the past. So we get them in summer school to try to get them ahead in school or help them graduate on time. Also, what allow us to do is for players to stay here over the summer and use our facilities to train and stay in shape, or for the upcoming season. Maybe you may have a player that's hurt, is trying to do rehab, so that player has the opportunity to do some summer school and also work on her rehab to be back on time for preseason. So obviously it's been a challenge. It's been a little bit different. One of the things that we love as a coach is just to hang out with our players and see them in our building. Every time they walk down the hallway, just call them in to chat in the office, or themselves popping by and stopping in and saying hi. So obviously we're missing all that interactions with them right now. There is some schooling that they get to do online over the summer, but it's not quite the same as when we have them here on campus, because we miss interaction part.
Yeah, I'm sure it's tough for you guys when you're trying to, especially as a coach heading into just your third year here, trying to build that culture and the community family feeling to be separated right now. And on those same vein, with the entire campus being virtual for this fall and travel being limited due to restrictions, how has recruiting been going for you? Can you explain how you're supplementing campus tours or face-to-face engagement with your prospects?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. It's been a process to by trial and error, see what happens and what works and doesn't work. We were pretty fortunate to be pretty far ahead in our recruiting class for 2021 before this whole situation went down. So as we're navigating through this whole coronavirus situation and not being able to travel or bring players on campus, allow us to slow down a little bit in our recruiting process, breathe a little bit, and do some extra research on some of the kids that we were following or we're trying to get in our program. We have Stephen Jenkins, one of our assistant coaches. He's pretty good with computers and pictures and videos, so he was able to put a video together, somewhat of a virtual tour where you can see Bakersfield, our campus, our dorms, pictures of our practice fields and game fields. So we have a little bit of a recruiting video that we get to share as much as we're allowed to by the NCAA. So we've been very creative, a lot of phone conversations, FaceTiming, WhatsApp, Zoom calls, and sending a lot of links by YouTube so they can see as much as possible as they can from the school. So it's been a challenge. It's been working out okay. Again, we were fortunate enough to be pretty far ahead with our 2021 class. So obviously we can communicate with our 2022s. So we're in a good spot recruiting wise, and it's been working out okay for us.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you're using technology to the best of your abilities. And as we're doing here tonight with the Zoom meeting with, 50 people or so, it was kind of unthinkable. Nobody really did this before. And it's good to hear that you're not just telling them to tour around Bakersfield with Google Maps. But besides from your recruiting, I know that you have several international players, 4 on your roster right now that I tallied, and then I believe you have 2 more coming in from outside the U.S. So can you kind of tell the viewers what's going on with your international students? Where are they, and how have the COVID-19 restrictions impacted them?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation for them being so far away from home without having any family, in this country. So basically CSUB is their family while they're here. All our coaches and assistant coaches, not just from the women's soccer, but from all the other sports, and all the student athletes, basically that's their family while they're here. So from 1 week to the next. So that's been taken away. So we have a couple of different cases. We have one player that was able to go home, and she's at home right now. We have a player that she's currently in Miami. She met up with her dad there, and they're with some family, spending some time there, waiting for the border to open up before they can go home. So we have a couple of players that stay with teammates. Okay, so Evelyn Deli is in Arizona right now. The Bostrom family just took her in, and they've been a tremendous host for her. Andrea Neves, our goalkeeper, she's spending some time in Texas. So it's been difficult, but the good thing to see is it's the amazing people at CSUB, how everybody's been stepping up, helping each other. Our domestic kids, our American kids, were the first ones to open up their homes for our international students. So it's been awesome to see.
That's great. And hopefully, through times like these and the struggles that you and your team and everybody else is dealing with, that will draw your team together better, and they'll have even better chemistry heading into this next season. So our next question, well, before we get there, I did want to remind folks that the chat is open for you guys to send me a message for a question or even a comment is fine for Coach Vecchio. We'll be getting to our Q&A portion in just a little bit here. So feel free to send that message to me in the Zoom chat, and we'll get to that. But Coach, the next thing I was wondering about is sort of the work-home life balance. I'm sure you're spending a lot more time at home than normal, so you're probably getting a ton of quality time with your 2 sons and your wife. So what does a normal day look like for you and your family these days?
Well, it's been challenging, having 2 little kids. My oldest one is 3.5, and the youngest one, it's not even a year old yet. So it definitely took some adjustment right away. But we try to stay in our routine as much as we can. I'm an early riser, so usually I'm out by 5:45 or 6 a.m. in the morning. Trying to get a few emails out before the boys get up, just to get done as much as I can. Once they get up around 7:15, we get to have some breakfast as a family all together, get them fed, and then after that, just get back in our office right here where I'm sitting right now. This room is half an office, half a workout room, and a playroom at times. So, work a couple of hours in the morning, tons of emails, phone calls, texting. If we have team meetings and Zoom, all that usually happens in the morning. Take a good break at lunchtime again. Get to eat lunch with the family before we get back on it in the afternoon for a couple of hours again, making sure that we're keeping up with what we need to do in preparations for that coming season.
That's great. It sounds like you keep yourself very busy these days, and I'm sure as a head coach of a college program and as a father of 2 young boys, you're used to keeping yourself busy. On the same kind of topic of how your day goes, you've talked about your workday and how busy you keep, but what's the major difference on how you're able to do your work between now and before we were having to practice social distancing?
Well, everything, this virtual world that we live in right now, everything through the computers or through your phone. Obviously, technology has been amazing, during these times, because you're away from people, but you still get to be connected with everybody. So through the day, whether it is checking on our players, shooting, picking a player or 2 every day to call them and shoot a text and see how they're doing, through sending emails, everything that has to do with scheduling, recruiting, or just prepping. Right now at home is a great opportunity to learn from other coaches. We have some extra time, so there's been a lot of meetings on the computers about new things coming up, how we can make our student athletes better, how we can give them a better experience. So it's been very impressive, everything that we've been able to do so far with technology, being away from people. This conversation right now, I think is great, having 50, 60 people logging in and asking questions. It's like we're in the same room. If I look back at the end of the spring, our Raries Award were great. You guys put a fantastic product out there with our student athletes. enjoying being there. So we get to stay busy. We get to be very productive, and we don't use it as an excuse. We just get after it.
And for those of you who are not aware, Coach talked about social media and technology. If you want to follow our women's soccer program on social media, you can search for them at CUSB_W soccer on pretty much all social media platforms, and you can keep up with the team and their antics that way. So at this time, we will open it up to our viewer questions, which I do see there are a few coming in here already, but there's still time if you would like to ask a question or make a comment for Coach Vecchio. Please feel free to send me a message in the chat, but we will open it up with the first one. Let me scroll up to it here. The first one says, Coach, how would you describe your style of play, and how does that translate into our new conference?
Well, we're a team that likes to play. Obviously, we try to put our team in a good position to win the game and be successful on the field. We're a team that likes to possess the ball and combine and get our outside backs involved in the tag. But one thing that we talk about all the time is playing possession with a purpose, and taking what the other team is giving us. So we are able to mix our style of play. Sometimes we have to go direct. Sometimes we have to possess and go side to side. We go forward. It all depends on what the team in front of us is giving us that day, or how we feel that we match up against them based on our research and our scouting that we done during the week. How that get us ready for the Big West? I think we feel comfortable playing in a different couple of ways. If we need to sit in a 4-2-3-1 and defend and play in the counter, I think we feel pretty comfortable doing that. I think if we need to step up with 2 forwards or playing a 4-4-2, defend a little bit higher up the field, I think we can do that as well. Going into the Big West, obviously the challenge is going to be a better challenge, higher level of competition, and we're going to see a couple of different teams that we may have to use different resources to be successful. So I feel like the best way to describe our style of play is we're always ready, we're always prepared, and we take what the opposition give us to be successful.
That's great. It sounds like your team is a very flexible and versatile team, able to take any attack that comes at them and adjust to it, which is very important. The next question I'm seeing here comes from Jordan Lovett, and he asks what coaches' expectations are for the first season in the Big West, and also, how does that relate to scheduling, and how does the schedule look?
Well, as far as the scheduling, obviously we play everybody in the Big West. We would half of those games at home, half of them away, just like we did in the WAC. Obviously, travel-wise, it's going to be way easier on our student athletes. I think we're going to have a bunch of day trips, or we can come back right after the game, where it's not going to put a toll on our bodies. So on the traveling side and the scheduling side, it's going to be so much easier because it's more staying in California, which is going to be great for us. So as far as preparing for the Big West and the expectations are always to be better than we were last year. We want to set the standard, and we want to keep getting better in all the areas, on the field and off the field, as well as in the community. So for us, we're going to be prepared. We're going to be ready. Since we took over back in 2018, we have never made it about the result. It's always about the process, and it's always about ourselves trying to get better every week, and controlling what we can control. And then that's how the results come. So we're going to prepare as we always do. We're going to be ready. We're going to do research. Our kids are going to work hard, and we're going to put a good product on the field that's going to be very competitive in the Big West.
Coach, the next thing we have, we actually have 2 comments, not questions. I feel like this first one might be a little bit biased, but he might be right. It comes from Guillermo Vecchio, and he says, Sebastian is the best coach. Any comments on that?
Well, of course, he's biased because he's family. So, but thank you. I think he is the best coach. So he's been coaching for a long time. He's somebody that he's a big resource that I have in my pocket that not a lot of people know. He is an extremely successful coach, a coach at the highest level, national team in I think he coached 6 different national teams in 23 different countries. So he's been in the Olympics as well. So he's a resource that I have in my back pocket, that when I want to know about something or somebody, I can reach out to him. And so he's the best one. I'm maybe the second best.
Okay, you guys can fight amongst yourselves first or second, but appreciate your humility there. We have another comment here, and this one comes from Jordan Lovett, and he says, as a fan, I want to let Coach Vecchio know that I really do like what he has done with the program and the direction he has them going towards. So, Jordan, thank you. I'll answer for Coach Vecchio. He's appreciative of your kind remarks there. The next, we do have a question here. Somebody would like to know, how has your team been doing academically? I know that the spring semester wrapped up and we're moving into summer and grades are coming out. So how'd that look this year?
It looked very good. Our GPA, we had the highest term GPA in the last 5 years, I think since 2015. So we challenged the team to be good not only on the field, but in the classroom as well. We had a goal of 3.3 as a team, and I think we were over. I think we got a 3.41. I'm not sure if that is official yet, but that's what it's looking like right now. So we surpassed that goal. Again, it was the highest term GPA that we had in the last 5 or 6 years here at CSUB. So extremely proud of the work in the classroom. We wanted to have every single player over a 3.0, and I think we got 27 of the 30 players that were over a 3.0. We had 2 perfect 4.0s, and I believe 21 or 22 players on the dean list. So extremely proud of the effort in the classroom this semester, especially with the transition going from in-person classes to online and leaving the school halfway through the semester. And obviously we couldn't do it without our academic advisor, Bao, and the whole Kegley staff. They're an amazing resource, and they were the ones, that made it all happen.
That's really amazing. Just thinking about the busy lives and schedules of student athletes. I know when I was in college, I struggled to keep similar grades to what your student athletes are getting, and I didn't have basically a part-time job or more to deal with. So I look at our student athletes and they inspire me with their work ethic. The next question we have here, somebody would like to know, how many people do you have on your staff?
Well, right now we have 3 coaches that you can call full-time. So I'm a full-time head coach. Kay MacArthur, she's our assistant coach. She's full-time. She's my right-hand woman. She's been with me since day one, pretty much. And then we have a GA position that is our second assistant coach. That is Stephen Jenkins. That he's done an amazing job. I think he's a rising star in the business. So the 3 of us are kind of like the main coaching staff, where we spend most of the hours in the office. Then we have a volunteer coach or assistant coach to help us with the goalkeepers on a daily basis, or every other day. He trains the goalkeepers. And then we have somewhat of a director of operations. Again, it's another person that come in on a volunteer basis that help us quite a bit through the week and on game days mainly. So athletic trainer, Courtney, she's the one in charge of making sure that all our kids are healthy and ready to play. So we probably have about a group of 6 people that were all the time working together with our 28 to 30 players that we have on the roster. 4 of them full-time, 2 of them on a volunteer basis.
Well, they say it takes a village to get the job done. And I know you and your staff, voluntary or full-time, they all do a great job, especially having a large group like you do on your roster. The next question we have comes from R. Rodriguez, who asks, how do you ease the transition from a club level to a college level for incoming freshmen?
That's a great question. I personally think there's a big gap between the club level and the college level. Regardless of what club you play for and whatever school you're going to, I think the intensity of the game and the intensity of the practices is something that you haven't really seen until you step foot on campus. And the number one thing that I can tell you or any player that's looking to make that transition from the club to the college game, at least on women's soccer, it's the fitness part of things, the speed of play, and being fit, physically fit and ready to go when preseason starts is massive. There is a huge correlation between the players that come in fit, usually are the ones that play a lot. We only play 12 weeks during the season. So we have 20 games where we play 2 games each weekend. So if you don't come in fit, you may pick up an injury here and there. Now you're playing catch up, you're playing from behind. When you get back on track and you get fit and you get healthy, half of the season is gone. So the number one thing is for every player coming out of high school or club going into college is to make sure that you're fit and ready to go for preseason.
That's great advice, Coach. Appreciate you sharing that with us and our viewers. The next question comes from someone who you've already mentioned tonight, your assistant coach, Kate MacArthur. And she asks, what has been your favorite moment so far coaching at CSUB?
Oof, I think there is a lot of moments. I think, again, when it comes down to results and not on the field, I think it's easy to say, beating UMKC for the first time, or making the tournaments back to back after missing, the season before we got here. I think all the on the field accomplishments are great. I think seeing players develop and getting better and stepping up, I think those are my favorite moments. I think our first year, seeing somebody like Haley Vicente coming back after an ACL and being able to play the last game of the season at home for senior night, I think it was one of my favorite moments since I've been coaching here. But we have tons of those situations. We have kids that when we came here, we're getting a 2-point-something GPA, and now all those kids are over a 3.0. So those are very proud moments. Those are my favorite moments that you enjoy as a coach and why you coach. So it's difficult to pick. I can tell you that I personally, and I think my staff as well, we have been enjoying our time here at CSUB, and we're hoping to create many, many more favorite moments.
We have a couple more questions here from the viewers, and there's still a little bit more time. If anybody else would like to submit a question to me, I'll be happy to read them out to Coach. But the next one says, what is your favorite sport besides soccer?
Well, we'll have to say basketball. I grew up in a basketball family, so I do enjoy the NBA and college basketball quite a bit. My uncles and my dads were all basketball coaches. I played some of it growing up until I decided to stick with soccer. So basketball is definitely my favorite sport, more than soccer. Okay,
great answer. Did you follow the NBA here in America? Did you have a favorite team?
Yes, the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, you got to go with Manu Ginobili.
Okay, well, wrong answer, but we appreciate you sharing. I'm just kidding. We show love for all teams here, even though some are better than others. Moving on to our next question here. One of your fellow head coaches at CSUB, Jeremy Beard, who was on with us for another Coaches Takeout talk a couple weeks ago, he wants to know, what's your favorite Pumpup song?
Oof. So I will say my favorite, that's a tough question. I'm more of like a calm music, relaxing music before going into a game. But the team plays the theme song for Star Wars. So I usually wear dark on game days. So every time that I walk in the locker room, they have the Darth Vader song playing for me, and I think that gets me going. It gets me ready for games every time that I walk in the locker room.
Okay, that's not what I expected, but that's a good answer. I like that one. Next up, we have a question from Aaron Wan, who I believe is one of our very active ASI members on campus for the Associated Students Incorporated. Aaron asks, how do you continuously and effectively build the team, especially considering these turbulent times in the world?
Well, you just gotta make sure that you stay in touch with your kids. We're trying to communicate as much as we can with all the players, whether it is through Zoom meetings, whether it is on a one-on-one basis, whether it's just a simple text. I was catching up with some kids yesterday. It's like a simple text of, hey, how you holding up? How you doing? It just goes a long way. So you don't want to make it stressful for them, but you want to make sure that they know that you're there for them if they need you. So that's kind of like how we try to stay together as a team. When we get in Zoom calls together, we try to make it fun. We try to make it relaxed, and we try not to give them too much information at the same time. We want to make sure that they know that we're gonna get through this. Everybody's going through the same thing, and we're strong enough to get through this. And at the end of the day, sooner or later we'll get back on the field together. So it's a lot of communication, and again, mainly just to let them know that we're there for them and with them if they need anything.
Yeah, it's so important to have that open and clear communication with your student athletes, I'm sure. And actually, I'm going to skip ahead one or two questions here, but we have a question from Janet Millar, and she says, Coach, I am the coordinator for the counseling center at CSUB. Are you open to getting together this summer to talk about what ways we can help your scholar athletes' mental health?
Absolutely. I think it's a massive, the health center is a massive resource, and we used it before with players. My assistant coach, Kate MacArthur, she does an amazing job of meeting with our players on a one-on-one basis when I don't have the chance to do it, meeting with our incoming players weekly or bi-weekly to make sure that they're having a successful transition to CSUB. And I know we used that resource in the past. I know we're going to continue to use it, and I'll be more than happy to meet with them as often as possible or needed, because mental health right now, it's very, very important, especially during these quarantine times where you don't get to be with your friends, all your family. So I'll be more than happy. I think that you can never do enough in that area.
So Janet, it sounds like we got a definite yes in there, and we'll make sure you guys get linked up, because that sounds like a really good opportunity for coaches, student athletes. Moving back to the order of the list here. Next question relates to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund, which is sort of the topic of the evening. This person asks, how does the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund impact your team's recruiting?
Well, the scholarship fund impacts in our team in all the areas, basically. It's the main resource for all the teams here at CSUB. So it's a massive part of any success that we can have as a team. Allow us to go and recruit in different tournaments, going to different places. And not only that, being able to provide opportunity for student athletes to come in and get an education and play soccer at the Division I level here at CSUB. Our men's program with Richie Grant, he always says that scholarships and CSUB provide our student athletes with an opportunity. They even have it outside the locker room. When you walk in, it says opportunity outside the door. And that's what the scholarship fund does. It provides amazing opportunities to these young ladies and young men to go to school and get an education and experience things that may never experience if they have a scholarship or if they have those fundings to provide them with help. It's huge. One of my favorite things as a coach is over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I always have student athletes that get opportunities, so they get to do something for the first time because they're part of our soccer team, whether it is flying for the first time, leaving the state for the first time, going to the beach for the first time, seeing snow for the first time. Those are the moments that stick with you as a coach when a player is telling you, wow, this is the first time that I'm doing this. And we're able to provide that opportunity and those experiences because of obviously the scholarship fund.
Yeah, those first time moments and those the cultural moments. I personally got to experienced the Bahamas with our men's basketball program when they went on a tournament. And a lot of the guys on the team had relatives from that area. So they were experiencing some familial culture, and that was a really cool experience. So I appreciate you sharing that. And you did speak about some of your student athletes and their scholarships and how that affects them. And we actually have a question next from one of your student athletes, Esther Toth. And she says, are you sad that this is the last season for your upcoming seniors?
Absolutely. It's always hard to say goodbye to the seniors. They put so much hard work on this program. It's 4 years of working extremely hard and getting better and transitioning from being a young player to an older player, from following to leading, from being immature to being mature, from being naive to being wise. So it's 4 years. It'll be only 3 years with Esther at the end of her career, but it's always very hard to say goodbye to the seniors, because you spend so much time with your players and with your team during the season and in the off season, and we get so invested with each other, players with coaches and coaches with players. Even if you look at Esther's case, I think in the last 2 years, her career has getting better and better. And she's such an amazing young woman right now that I can't wait what her senior year has in store for her.
Next up, we have a question about your jerseys. Detrick asks, who designs the different jerseys that you all play in? And he says, the dark jerseys last year were awesome, and the new kits for next year look amazing.
That credit goes to Steven Jenkins, our assistant coach. He's the one in charge of equipment. We all brainstorm kind of like what we want to wear, what we want to look, but he's the design guy. Steven and Eddie, the head of our equipment department, the two of them get together. We come up with a few designs. Usually we narrow it down to 2 or 3 designs, and then we let people vote. That design was very, very popular last year, and I thought they looked amazing.
I agree. I think some of the fans and viewers saw them on some of the highlights we were just running. They look really sharp. Really great look for the program to see them in the Roadrunner blue and gold there. Next question we have, it comes from Nicholas Vecchio, and he would like to know, who is your favorite professional soccer coach, and which coach do you feel influenced you the most?
That's a tough question. I think there is a lot of really good coaches across the world. I try to create my own style and my own craft when it comes down to the type of coach that I want to be. But in order to do that, you have to learn. You have to learn from different people. I think when you look across different leagues, I think Simeone, he's the head coach for Atletico Madrid. I think his defensive principles are the best out there. So I try to learn stuff from the defensive side of the ball from him. I think Bielsa right now, he's the head coach for Leeds in the Premiership. His players, move very, very well off the ball. They're very fluid going forward. So every time that we're trying to work on some attacking schemes, I try to see or learn from him as well. Then there's different people, different coaches that they're not great coaches, but they're very good managing people, which I think that's very, very important at our level and on what we're trying to do with our student athletes. So I try to look at everybody and I try to pick what I like and what I think can be useful for our program in order to create my own style. So I can't tell you this is the one, this is the guy, because I looked at a lot of people.
Yeah, little pieces of a lot of different people can make up a really good coach. It kind of reminds me of the concept that, the body has all the different parts. So I like that imagery. And this last question that we have here, it's a little bit vague, so I might add a little bit to it. It says, can you ask Coach about his playing days? So Coach, maybe could you maybe describe to people the process of you getting recruited, leaving Argentina and then playing in college, and then anything else you'd like to add in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I came over in the U.S. back in 1999 with a team from back home. We did a small tour here in the U.S. Where I got recruited. I ended up my career playing at Memphis under our current men's coach, Richie Grant. So he was my coach for 2 years there. I was a goalkeeper. I had the chance to win a championship and be Defensive Player of the Year my senior year under Coach Grant guidance. We went to the NCAA tournament. And then from there, I had the chance to be in small camps and playing a little bit in Pittsburgh and Milwaukee before stepping into the coaching ranks at Memphis, actually. So that's very briefly my career as a player. Obviously, grew up playing in Argentina for a pro team that is in the second division right now currently. But yeah, it's been a great journey through club, college, and now just as a coach.
Okay, great. We have a couple more questions that came in here. One more from another one of your current student athletes, Jaden Skinner. She asks, what was your favorite game of this past season?
Oof, I think there is a lot of good games. My favorite games, there were several times in the season that we needed to step up and either get a result or perform well, because the game before we didn't perform great. So all the games that were the second games of the weekend that we had to get a result and our backs were against the wall and our team responded, those were my favorite games of the year. Obviously, Jordan Martinez is scoring 3 goals against UMKC. It was fantastic. Being up 3-0 against Utah Valley for most of the game was great. Senior night against Chicago State, getting a big win. Sophie Freeman scoring on senior night. That was a fantastic game as well. Opening up the year at Pacific, it was great. Beating UC Riverside with actually Jaden's goal in overtime. It was a lot of fun. So I think every time that we won was my favorite game.
Okay, I think we were just seeing some highlights from Jordan Martinez's hat trick there, which I think was one of our, I don't remember if it won or it was one of our nominees for best individual game of the year at the Rowdies. And that was definitely one of my favorites. So thanks for sharing that with us, Coach. Next up, another one of your coaches, Stephen Jenkins, would like to know, what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned in your first 2 years as a head coach?
I think the biggest thing is to be able to delegate and to trust that the people around you is going to be able to do what they need to do, and they have the best interest for the program. I like to micromanage too much, so I think being able to let Kate and Steven do what they need to do for our program to be successful, I think is one of the biggest things that I learned, over the last 2 years. The next thing that I think it's very important too, it's not to worry about things that doesn't affect winning. When you're a head coach, you cannot worry on the little things that had no outcome on the result of the game over the weekend. And that's very difficult to do, because when you're somebody that pays attention to details and you want to micromanage, you want to do everything and you want to handle everything. So being able to prioritize what's important to get our team ready for the weekend and what's not, I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a tough lesson, because I know pretty much all of the head coaches that I know, they're go-getters. They're people who want to get the job done. They're willing to put in the time and effort. So I'm sure it was a tough lesson, but a good lesson to learn to be able to distribute the responsibility. I see a question here. It says, which Big West opponent do you see as your team having a similar playing style?
I think the Big West is it's pretty diverse in systems that they play and style that they play. So when you face Cal State Fullerton, you're going to see one thing. When you see Long Beach State, you're going to see a different thing. CSUN, we had some really good battles over the last 2 years with them. They're very physical. I think I'm going to answer the question a different way. I think I would like to play the way that UC Santa Barbara played when they came to us this past year during the season. It's a very fluid game where everybody was very comfortable on the ball. Everybody was passing the ball. The movement of the ball was very good. And they had a solid back line, a great midfielder, and two amazing forwards. So I think that's kind of like what we're going to try to do going into the league. And that's the team that I hope that we can say we look like them by the end of the season.
Okay, great. And that's all of our viewer questions at this time. So Coach, before I let you go, I had a couple more questions I wanted to run your way. And for our viewers who don't know, the 2020 season marks 25 seasons of CSUB women's soccer. So that's a pretty historical moment for Bakersfield in general. And it also marks the school's first year in the Big West. So for you personally, Coach, heading into the 2020 season, what are your expectations, your objectives, and your goals for this season for you and your team?
It's just like we discussed before. I think the expectation is to finish as high as we can in the league. You know, we go into every game wanting to win the game and knowing that we have enough talent in our team to win each game. There is not really anybody on the league that I'm going into the game thinking that we can beat that team. So the expectation is to live this program as high as we can. And to have good performances in every single game that we step on in the non-conference and in the Big West. But our goal is, by the end of this season, is to make sure that the Big West says it was worth to bring Bakersfield into the league. I want them to be excited about us being in the league, and I want them to be impressed by how we play and the results that we were able to accomplish. And I want them to be afraid to play us.
That's great, Coach. I almost think they might be a little bit regretful that they invited your team into the league, but we know that they're happy to have us, and we're happy to be a part of the Big West. So the last question I have is there's a little bit of lead up to it, but you got hired at CSUB a little over 2 years ago, and when you came to campus, we did a get to know Sebastian interview with you. In that video, I don't know if you remember, you told us that your favorite soccer player was Fernando Redondo, one of the great Argentine players from the 90s. Now, I want to put you a little bit on the hot seat and ask a follow-up to that question, which might be a little controversial. You have living stars from Argentina out there like Lionel Messi, Javier Mascherano, and then there's some older legends like Mario Kempes and the great Diego Maradona. So can you give us your list of, in your opinion, the top 3 greatest Argentine soccer players of all time?
Well, I'm going to keep Redondo on my list. Fernando Redondo, I think he's a great player. So he's going to take one of the top 3 spots. And then the easy answer would be for me to tell you Messi and Maradona, right? Just to round up the top 3, because otherwise they won't let me back in the country. But I can tell you that Gabriel Batistuta, he's a center forward, powerful guy. He can score in any way that you can imagine. And I think one of the things that I like him about the most is he's so mentally tough. And he's a top goal scorer in every single league, mainly in Italy, where he played most of his career. But he's an amazing goal scorer. I think he would make my top 3 as well. And I'm going to leave it at that. I think we have so many really good soccer players, and our soccer culture is so rich that it's just hard to narrow it down to 3 players.
Definitely a difficult task, but I think you handle it pretty well with good tact. So thank you for answering that question. And thanks again, Coach, for joining us for tonight's Takeout Talk and our Q&A session. And to everybody who joined us here live, we thank you so much. And once again, we would like to thank our generous sponsor of tonight's Coach's Takeout Talk, Tony's Pizza. Make sure to check out the Tony's Special, where you can get an extra large pizza, potato wedges, and a pitcher of soda for just $27. Next week, we'll be back with our next Coaches Takeout Talk featuring Director of Cross Country and Track and Field, Marcia Mansur-Wentworth. That will be on Thursday, June 18th. It is our hope that these Q&A discussions show the direct impact Roadrunner Scholarship Fund contributions have on CSUB athletic teams. It is also our hope that these Q&A discussions might motivate you into considering donating to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. Your investment into our student athletes' lives is greatly appreciated. For more information, please visit gorunners.com/give. Have a great night, everyone, and go Runners.